With the launch of Episode Revenant, Warlock's got a brand new exotic chest piece, Rime-Coat Raiment. And let me tell you, this has to be one of the most fun exotics Warlocks have to offer. This build offers you ways to lock down and control areas. It offers you a ton of survivability, and it even offers you flexibility with your weapons. Let's get into it. The new Rime-Coat Raiment exotic has the perk Bleak Domain, which states that your Bleak Watcher turrets are enhanced, offering them more range and generating stasis crystals around the turret. And while standing close to your turret, you start generating icicles over time. These icicles shoot with your weapon when you fire, applying slow and damaging the targets that they hit. The great thing is you can now use your turrets in two different ways. First, you can use your turret offensively. This is the way most people tend to use it. Throw it at a boss, mini-boss, or even an area where you know enemies will spawn. That way you can lock down that area and deal some extra damage to bosses. Alternatively, you can use your turret defensively. Simply throw your turret in a good location and position yourself inside the storm right underneath your turret. That way, while your turret is slowing and freezing targets, you can use the icicles to shoot at specific targets like a boss to slow and freeze them, dealing more overall damage. Both are effective methods for different situations. In game modes like Onslaught, it's a good idea to use your turret a bit more defensively, since you know the enemies will funnel into a lane, making it easy to lock down that area. Whereas in some activities, it can be better to use your turrets more offensively. In situations where the boss is a bit further away, you'd want to throw the turret very close to the boss to consistently freeze that boss. And in this scenario, you'd also be able to get extra shatter damage from those crystals that will be generated over time. Both methods are effective, so make sure to choose the method that matches the situation that you're in.
Before we get into the build, I have one question for you. Have you been experiencing lag and dropped frames playing games on your console? Well, I'm super excited to announce I'm partnering with Apex Gaming PCs. My PC lineup has a PC for everyone. With Destiny being a 10-year-old franchise, even the most entry-level PC can handle running it. These PCs are powered by AMD CPUs for multitasking, so you can run Destiny 2 and all of your favorite Destiny apps at the same time. And you can even finance it so that you can afford to buy Destiny's 6 years of content. You can use code LUCKY to save 10% at checkout. With that being said, let's jump right back into the video.
So let's dive into the build and break down how it works. In most scenarios, Song of Flame is the best option. It gives you a ton of ad clearing, survivability, and even pairs nicely with one of our later fragments. You can, however, swap this out for Nova Bomb if you want some good burst DPS for bosses. And for our abilities, I'm a huge fan of Phoenix Dive for its quick and instant healing. And while that is the best option if you plan on only using your turrets offensively, I tend to take Healing Rift. That way, when I use a turret in a defensive manner, I can pop a Healing Rift under it to maximize my damage and survivability. I did struggle a bit when it comes to the melee. I think Penumbral Blast can be fun for Stasis synergy, or Incinerator Snap to cause ignitions and shatter your crystals. However, I think Arcane Needle is technically the best option. Since you have 3 charges, you can easily guarantee a kill to proc Devour, and we'll touch on why this is so important in a minute. For the grenade, I landed on the Storm Grenade for its ease of use and shorter cooldown. You could swap this for the Healing Grenade, which has an even shorter cooldown. However, I like to have another ability that I can use to guarantee that Devour activation. And of course, this exotic is all about your Bleak Watcher turrets. So for our first aspect, we are taking Bleak Watcher. Now you can hold down your grenade button to convert your grenade into a stasis turret, and this turret will constantly shoot at enemies, slowing and eventually freezing them. This can be used to lock down areas, offering you ways to freeze targets and deal a ton of shatter damage, which is also another way to deal even more damage to bosses. For the second aspect, I went for Feed the Void. Since we want to have a turret up and on the field as much as possible, we want to take advantage of Devour. More specifically, this enhanced version of Devour. Now, whenever you get an ability kill, you're granted an enhanced version of Devour, so that whenever you get a kill, you're fully healed and gain back anywhere from 15 to 40% of your grenade energy, depending on the target that was killed. This is a huge catalyst to keep your turrets active and can even lead to some turret mayhem. When it comes to the fragment, the first fragment that I'm taking is Facet of Purpose. Now, when we pick up an orb, we gain an elemental buff based on what super you have equipped. Since we're bringing Song of Flame, this means 5 seconds of restoration restoration, which is nice if you run into a section where you can't get a guaranteed kill to heal yourself. If you opt for Nova Mob, this will mean a 22 hit point Void Overshield with 70% damage resistance. And next, I'm taking Facet of Protection, so that while surrounded, you gain an extra 15% damage resistance, which is generically good for overall survivability. And since we cause so much shatter damage, we're of course bringing Facet of Ruin. Now, the shatter that we cause will have increased range and overall damage. Then I bring Facet of Courage, so that our light-based abilities will deal 10% more damage to enemies affected by a darkness debuff. This is so easy to proc since our turrets will be constantly slowing and freezing everything. This is another reason why Incinerator Snap could be a good option. However, I love this to deal more damage with Nova Bomb or Song of Flame, which can be especially helpful in boss DPS phases. And finally, I take Facet of Balance, so that rapid light-based kills will give back 10% melee energy, and rapid darkness-based kills will give back 10% grenade energy. We tend to deal both, since our shatter damage will get us a ton of darkness-based kills, and I usually like to bring a light-based weapon as my primary weapon.
Hey you! Yeah, you! Are you enjoying the video? If so, remember to leave a like on the video and consider hitting that subscribe button.
So what does this look like in action? Well, you want to start every activity by getting an ability kill. That way you can proc Devour. I like to get a powered melee kill to activate Devour before doing anything else. That way you know when you throw your turret, you can immediately start working back towards it. Technically, the shatter damage that you cause can activate Devour, though I find this to be inconsistent, especially if you have a teammate using weapons like Graviton Lance. I hate those little orbs. Anyway, in situations like Onslaught, where you want to defend an ADU, I pick a place where I know the enemies will funnel towards. Then I throw down a turret and immediately pop a Healing Rift. This can be a bit redundant since we fully heal with each kill while Devour is active. However, when you're stationary, you become an easy target, so you'll take more overall damage. I find that Healing Rift is a safer option and even provides your team with a safe haven. In other situations where you want to deal boss damage, it can be a better idea to use that turret offensively, meaning throw it next to the boss to cause that extra shatter damage from the crystals and the turret. This will also activate Facet of Courage, meaning you'll get 10% extra damage out of your super. And depending on the boss, it could be a better option to use your turret defensively. In situations where you want to deal boss damage from a certain location, you can use your turret to keep the small enemies away. And this can be especially helpful if you're using something like a grenade launcher or rocket. So let's talk about ways to improve the build. For stats, I aim for 100 resilience and 100 discipline to gain the most amount of survivability and grenade energy as possible. Then I go for a split of strength and intellect since both are helpful. As for our armor mods, for the helmet, I like to take a siphon mod that matches the primary weapon. That way you can help create a ton of orbs to consistently gain restoration and feed back into your super and your teammates' supers. Then I bring heavy ammo finder to help generate more overall heavy ammo. And finally, I bring dynamo. That way you can use your class ability near enemies to gain back a bit more super energy. For the gauntlet mods, I'm taking a loader mod, and I like to bring a loader mod that matches our primary weapon. That way we can get a bit quicker reload speed, which can be nice for weapons that have perks like Heal Clip or Volt Shot. And then I also bring Momentum Transfer and Bolstering Detonation, so that grenade damage now gives back some melee and class ability energy. The damage that your turrets deal will consistently proc this, so that way you'll consistently get back your other abilities whenever your turret is active. And for the chest mods, just like for most builds, I'm running 3 resistance mods. I usually go for 2 elemental resistance and a concussive dampener. If you want a build to be viable in any endgame activity, 3 resistance mods are a must. That way you can take the least amount of damage as possible, and make sure to match these to the activity that you're running. As for the leg mods, if you want more ability energy, something like Absolution or Orbs of Restoration can be a good option. However, I like to deal the most amount of boss DPS as possible, so I typically like to run 3 weapon surge mods. I like to bring 2 that match my primary and my heavy weapon, and then 1 that matches my backup DPS weapon. And for the class mods, I tend to run Outreach, so that I get back an extra 12% melee energy whenever we use our class ability. And then I also bring Reaper, so that after we use that class ability, our next weapon kill will create an orb. And then I pair all that with Powerful Attraction, so that now we can collect nearby orbs just by using our class ability. Since this episode's artifact has a ton of stasis perks, we will be getting a pretty big buff to this build for this season. The most important perk is Hail the Storm, making it so that shattering a crystal will send out ice shards that will slow nearby targets. The bigger reason we take this is so that we can boost it with a tonic, making it so that all of the shatter damage that we cause will deal an additional 12% more damage. And Brain Freeze is another great perk, which will create a slowing stasis field around frozen enemies. Then I like to bring my grenade launcher perks like Rapid Impact so that we gain increased reload speed for our grenade launchers just by dealing damage with them. And Concussive Reload is a super handy perk since it gives you a way to easily weaken a boss and deal an extra 15% more damage just by using your grenade launcher on them. Other perks like One with Frost, Wind Chill, Armor of Aramis, and Crystalline Converter can all be good, but revolve mainly around a stasis weapon and frost armor. And since I don't typically play into those with this build, they aren't as relevant for me. And this build is mainly about using your turrets, so you will have a ton of flexibility when it comes to weapons. In the kinetic slot, I like to bring a special weapon that's good for backup DPS or ad clearing. Bringing a grenade launcher like this season's Liturgy or even Lingering Dread can be a good idea to weaken the boss. Both of these can roll with Chill Clip for that extra shatter damage. The Call is a rocket assisted sidearm that ran rampant last season, and honestly still feels really good even after its nerf. And I typically like to bring a primary weapon in the energy slot, mainly one that matches my heavy weapon. For solar heavy weapons, I like to bring a weapon like Nullify that can roll with Heal Clip for that extra survivability. For arc heavy weapons, I like to bring a weapon that can proc Jolt. This could be any weapon with Volt Shot, or even this season's Vantage Point, which can get jolting feedback to proc Jolt just by dealing damage. And for void heavy weapons, I like to bring a weapon like Elsie's Rifle that can roll with Repulsor Brace. And in this case, I would swap out Facet of Balance for Facet of Bravery. That way you can proc volatile rounds and in turn proc Repulsor Brace. And for that heavy slot, like I said, I like to match it with my energy slot weapon. So you want to bring a heavy weapon that will match the activity that you're running. For solar weapons, Parasite is a really fun option for nuking mini bosses. For a void weapon, you can bring Edge Transit, which can output some massive DPS. And for arc, you can get the new seasonal Bittersweet, which can get Envious Arsenal and Bait and Switch to match the damage output of Edge Transit. You cause so much shatter damage with this build that it just leaves you feeling satisfied. But remember, mastering this build is only the beginning. Experiment with different combinations and tweak your loadout to suit your playstyle. If you found this video helpful or just enjoyed seeing a new perspective, feel free to like the video and comment down below what you might change or how you'd improve the Rime-Coat Raiment build. Keep an eye out for future videos as we continue to explore the ever-evolving world of Destiny 2. Until then, may the threads of fate be ever in your favor. This is Lucky Mech, signing off. See you on the next adventure, Guardians.